Yeah, me know. This is Kia Bamba, so we run the whole of Switzerland and the whole of Europe. And we run the whole of etc, etc. You don't know, devil shaman says so, me I back them to the max. And it's like some idiot someone want to stop them from get a piece of the pie. Oh, I'm to no disrespect, gonna go and die. Yeah, me know. Kia Bamba, them have dubs, we play fast, I play slow, them have flows. Like nobody knows, them kill soul, no sound clash and dance all. And mash up stage shows, but some guys don't recognize, I realize. So
Welcome to Only Friends on a Power Day, your one-stop spot for all things snow, mountain and travel. Get all you need to know about epic destinations, inspiring stories from local legends all around the globe, as well as creators, entrepreneurs, brands, owners, and more. We're here to talk about what's hot, what's changing the game, what's incoming. Come along for the ride, froth out, and let's have fun doing it. So today I have the man Clayton Kernaghan, Canadian legend, Black Diamond Lodge owner in Niseko, as well as cat ski operations, helicopters, guide, all around good dude. Yeah, I kind of decided that I wanted to touch base with you, Clayton, and obviously we share, we shared a ski trip or two together and share old employees, bosses, Betten Takayo and
Yep.
people. And I kind of heard you going on a bit of a tangent about things that were happening in Niseko. And that made me really want to not just talk to you about your story, but kind of expose a little bit of what's going on, because you're the kind of dude who likes to speak the truth. So before we get into that, could we just, like, I guess, you know, Niseko has been around for a long time, but you've been there for a really, really long time. And what a lot of people in Japan as foreigners would say is beginning. Could you just give us a bit of a background about how a Canadian Fred frother like yourself ended up in Niseko, when you got there, how you ended up with Black Diamond, and give us a little bit of a background to your journey. And as I just said to you before we started recording, thanks for jumping on, mate. It's good to have a chat, and I've always found you a very entertaining human, so stoked to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'll make it as first of all, I gotta crack a beer here. I've got to make this as short as possible. So I came over here when I was probably 22 or 23 years old, on a summer break from university, helping a Kiwi actually, export vehicles back to New Zealand. Blew my mind. Couldn't believe how much different Japan was than what we thought Japan was. Not much of internet back then, not to really see what's going on there. At that time, snowboarding was booming, and that was what was sort of pumping up the ski resorts, even though I think I came in first time was 1996 or 1995.
Shit. Wow.
Yeah, a long time ago. And the snowboarding industry was going crazy. The buyer's guides that you get, the magazines, were like this thick, and there was 3 of them. And I went down to Kanda Jimbocho. That's the place in Tokyo where all the ski and snowboard shops were. And there was hundreds of them lined up wall to wall. I went in one shop. I'm like, oh my God, look at how many boards of one model of one size they have in one shop. And there's 100 shops. And I didn't even know about the powder, to be honest with you, at that point in Japan. I thought I was going to start a snowboard specific tour company for Japanese coming to Canada, because I felt kind of like, wow, I can't believe they're into snowboarding and skiing that much. Poor guys, they don't even know what mountains are. Little did I know. So I tried to do that, went back to university, studied Japanese, finished with international business. In that time, I'm like, how do you do this? How do you start a tour company? Well, how did I find out about everything that I've done up until this point? I've been in the ski and snowboard industry since 14 years old, just doing work, part-time job and stuff. I mean, this is my life. There's no better lifestyle than the ski and snowboard industry, in my opinion. I knew I wanted to be there. I forfeited maybe going into something like maybe something that could have been more lucrative to live the lifestyle. And along that journey, I'm like, well, where did I find out about everything? that all the trips that I went on, I mean, sled skiing was really popular. This is way back in 94, 93. And it was all magazines. I read everything in the magazines. So I invited Transworld Snowboarding Japan to come to Canada and do a road trip with me. And I thought, that's the way I'm going to get these customers. And they did come over, and it was awesome. We did a 10-day or 12-day trip. And it made the magazine. They came in December and the snow conditions were great, but magazine didn't come out till February. Who's going to book a trip in February? I got one customer, and it failed. I failed miserably. So I said, oh, fine. I'm going to move. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to move. I studied Japanese, international business. I'm going to move to Japan, get better at Japanese, make some connections, and save some money by teaching English. Came to Hokkaido.
And so do you have any idea about the snow in Japan?
No.
Like, I've been to that zone in Tokyo where those big ski shops, and obviously in like the 80s and everything, like Japan went through a massive snow boom, and that kind of died off. And I think Hokkaido and all the rundown buildings and everything after Nagano is a real good vision of what that is, and all the tennis courts that were built as a tax write-off because the businesses knew that if they built a tennis court, they wouldn't have to pay tax and all this shit because business was booming. Like, I've heard stories about there being like Filipino strip clubs in Sagayaki and all sorts of stuff. And like all this weird shit that happened in ski towns in Japan. There's fucking water slides in a hotel in Hokkaido that's run down, and it was just huge. And I guess as you kind of found out about Japan and you were there in the mid-90s, that was like on the back end of that. And I think the Nagano probably Olympics sustained it for a little bit, and it was probably already on the down curve. And then it like fully dropped off the planet until the Aussies started coming to Niseko. Like, that's my take on it. Am I on the right track? Like, what do you think?
For sure. In the late 80s is when the bubble burst. And up until then, they were building golf resorts, golf courses, amusement parks, and ski resorts. And they built like 700 ski resorts. And it was just, anything was possible back then. If I could go back in time, that's where I would go. I would go back to Japan during that bubble time. Sister-in-law, she actually is the chef at Black Diamond Lodge. She used to be a hostess down in Eskimo, and there's nothing dirty about that. That was what you do. That the hostess industry is for where salarymen go to spend money. She said she would be in clubs, and they were literally throwing money in the air. That was the times back then. Even her boyfriend at the time, he had a BMW 850i, and he was just a delivery guy. Like, it was just crazy times back then. But what happened?
I've said the same thing. If I could go back in time and have fat powder skis, I would go to Sagayaki in the mid-80s and have my powder skis from 2010 plus. Just like go experience that scene, because it sounds like it was quite a time to be alive.
Sure. I mean, resorts weren't built for powder skiing. I think Niseko was still always famous for powder, but it was doing your dynamic course, your romance course, your usagi course. And, you do 4 or 5 runs, and then you take a hot spray and you're in your kimono all night at the hotel and you're having a great time. It was a different style back then. And I'm not saying it's a bad style. It was just, it wasn't so focused on the powder snow, I think, at that time. The ski industry the economy died, but the snowboarding industry actually carried the ski industry, the resort industry anyway, into the 90s. And that's when I showed up. That's when I saw all this snowboarding boom happening. I'm like, wow, there's no snowboard specific guiding company for Japanese coming to Canada. Like I said, it failed. So on my way of coming back,
skiing was dying and snowboarding was starting, and snowboarding became cool.
Correct. And still to this day, Japan is kind of a stronghold for snowboarding still. There's more skiers for sure every day. Again, it's just those waves. Japan was a stronghold for snowboarding for a very long time. It's very different than North America these days, I think.
Yeah. Very interesting insight, mate. It's awesome to hear. Like, as I didn't know, I've never talked to you about this, so I'm very intrigued. So you came to Japan mid-90s. When did you make your way back and end up in Niseko?
98, 99. I came in to Tokyo looking for a job English teaching, as that was the only thing you could do back then. And spent almost all the money I had in Tokyo because it's very easy to spend money in Tokyo. And then I headed out to Hakuba, lined up a job working at a pension, but it didn't start until a few more weeks later in December, and there wasn't that much snow there. And I kept seeing these big snowman marks on the weather report up in Hokkaido. So I said, "Listen, I'm going to go up to Hokkaido for a couple of weeks. I'll come back down here when job starts." And they're like, "Yeah, good idea. Go for that." And so I took a ferry up there, and it was mind-boggling, like seeing how much snow was there. That was a very, very good year, I believe, 98, 99. The snowbanks in Sapporo were 2 meters tall. The mini skirts were so short. The high boots, the whole Gadu look, it was
Yeah,
crazy. I'm
100%.
like,
Yes,
the rest of the
Sistina
world's
girl.
not.
Yeah.
So I did one. I took one day. So I took got a capsule hotel. I went the next day to Sapporo Kokusai. I ducked one rope there, and I was up to my neck in powder. And I'm like, man, I'm done. I'm staying. And I found a job. I found an apartment, and the rest is history. I stayed in Sapporo, shredding and teaching English for, I guess, 7 years. And along
Wow.
that way, I met a lot of my friends that I still have to this day, the Sapporo Snakes, we called ourselves. We used to ride, I'm not going to name the resort just so I don't get in trouble, but a local resort in Sapporo. And it was still, in my opinion, the best resort, best single lift in that I've ever rode at any resort anywhere. Doesn't get as much snow as Niseko, of course, but just the vibe there back in the day was amazing. And all of those guys ended up moving out to Niseko. So I was done. Didn't want to teach English anymore, even though it was so amazing. And the good part about English teaching was, well, there's a lot of things that happened during those 7 years that I was there, but I was able to visit a lot of other resorts. I went to every resort every weekend. During the week, I could ride my local, and on the weekends, I was checking out other resorts in backcountry. And even though it was absolutely amazing, I was done teaching English. I couldn't do another day. And a friend of mine told me about, and at that time I knew that Niseko was booming, or at least Hirafu was starting to grow. I had heard that some Australians were doing some developments and able to flip some properties, and I thought they were crazy. I thought it was a bubble, because I'm like, why would there's 53 resorts within a 3-hour drive from Sapporo? Niseko's good, and Niseko always has more snow, but all the other resorts are just untracked powder everywhere too. Why Niseko? I couldn't figure it out. But by the time I finally was ready to do some sort of a transition, I was ready to go home to Canada, to be honest with you. But then this opportunity came up, and Hirafu was already too expensive for me. I was just an English teacher, not making that much money. Higashiyama, where is, as everyone probably who's been here,
Niseko
there's
Village, the Gash. Yep.
the Gash. Yeah, that's the place I would ride anyway. And a lodge came up for sale right at the bottom of the mountain, and some friends introduced me, and the price was amazingly cheap. I mean, I don't mind talking about that, but it was a couple $100,000, and it was, you did the numbers at that price. You're like, okay, I could make this work, because you're not buying a property for $2 million, $3 million, and you need to generate this much money. You're like, okay, I could charge whatever it was back then, $50 a person per night, get 25, 30 people in there. This is going to work. And now I can take all this 7 years of experience that I've had and show people all the things that I've learned in the past 7 years. So came this close to moving back to Canada, but I took this opportunity in the gas year, bought the place. At this time, I'd already met my wife, and I met Brett and Takayo. Yeah, that was another funny one. That was at Tane. One day I didn't say that. One day we're in the ropeway, and there's this loudmouth American there, and he's got his tunes on so loud. He's
Listening
blasting
to
Tupac.
Tupac, no doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, blasting Tupac. And I'm like, who is this guy? And he talked about I just, his persona, everything about him. He was just like, talked about his place of work, and he was so enthusiastic. I got the lodge. I approached Brett. I said, listen, would you guys be interested in joining us out in Niseko? And they ran the restaurant and ran the entertainment
So
section of what we did.
was Brett and Tuckers just visiting on holiday at that point?
No, no, he was working at Rad Brothers, and she was working in an Italian restaurant, and they were riding Taney every day. Oops, I said it again.
Well,
They're riding a
don't
ski
say that
resort.
word. Yeah.
Yeah, they're riding a ski resort in Sapporo every day, and that's right. I would see them all the time. But I knew that he loved snowboarding, and when this opportunity came up, and I asked them if they could join us out there, and they took the opportunity, and we started Black Diamond Lodge together. It was awesome. It was amazing. Did Italian and Tex-Mex, and
The
unfortunately,
tacos is I've still never had any Mexican that is better than Picayo's Mexican.
no, I know
Is
it's amazing.
she's the best. And
Brett had the
Brett's the
snake.
best
He had the
cocktail
snakes and
maker.
the whole thing. It was a show. People, this is a long time ago. This is 20 years ago we bought the lodge. People were lined up 20, 30 minutes out the door to get into the restaurant. It was an entertainment, and it was delicious too. It was amazing.
And this is in the Gash. It's not in
Yeah, even the gas.
Harafu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. People would drive out there for
But
that.
I feel like Brett inspired a whole generation of people who just wanted to come sit at the bar and listen to him talk shit.
Absolutely.
And Takayo, like I worked in there, and one of my best mates came over, who's a co-host of this podcast, came over to visit. The first night that he visited Wild Bill's, he fell asleep on the bar, and because like he woke up and Brett and Takayo was so stoked with him, they offered him a job there the next day. And so my mate ended up staying for a month and worked with Brett and Tackers, because they were like, we've never seen anyone fall asleep so drunk at the bar and wake up and be kind and nice. Like, so the next day they offered him a job and he ended up staying for a month.
Hilarious.
But yeah, like I was literally talking to Takayo 2 nights ago, and they are some of my favorite people. And
Amazing.
I had employees from Rhythm Huckabee go visit Okinawa, which is where they are now. And one of the young kids who worked for me a couple of years ago, Brett turned around to him and is like, so you know my son, Austin. It's just, this guy's like, holy fuck, who is this crazy American guy? And that's the first thing that Brett said to him. So they're very close to my heart, and it's really good. Like, I knew that they worked for you, but I didn't know that was the full way that all played out. That's awesome, mate. So from the lodge, like what happened next? Like, I know that obviously you ended up becoming probably one of the most respected guides for all the pros in Niseko. You ended up doing heli shit, cat skiing. Like, how did it all evolve from the lodge to stepping up the game and introducing the world in a way to your backyard?
Well, back in the day, you didn't have, I mean, I was trying to get all my friends from Canada to come out here because I'm like, dude, it's like
Yeah.
heli skiing and cat skiing without the heli, lift access, untracked powder, every single run. It's insane. The Canadians, my friends, I mean, I'm from Canada, they didn't believe me until the masses started. Then you heard about this, and now they're all coming. And why didn't they come earlier is what they all say. So at that time, so we started a backcountry guiding company, and we were mainly offering resort, lift access backcountry tours, if you will, because you didn't have to go very far back then. But I could
No.
see the writing on the wall. There's more and more people coming here, and there's more and more competition out in the parking lots at Rusutsu or all these other resorts. And we knew that we didn't want to be doing that. And there was a point that so many people started coming here that we were able to offer pure backcountry tours. And I knew, I mean, given the terrain here and the amount of snowfall, that if we could get a cat operation going or some sort of mechanized thing going, it's going to be very unique. And the mountains are very, they're set up for it. It's
friendly for
friendly
that
for it.
kind of operation, right?
People ask all the time, what's the difference? I mean, why Niseko? You go to Hakuba, you go to that area, and the mountains are just huge and gorgeous. There's so many great things about that. place. But I guess the biggest difference between the two is that Niseko has incredible powder almost all season right down to sea level. And you can hike a 300-meter, 400-meter mountain and not have to get that high up, even on a high wind day or something like that, and still have some great tree skiing. So it's different. It's different. And I can see that it's a possibility for cat skiing. And it was a very long road. We were doing our tours, and then a friend of a friend introduced me to a guy with a helicopter who was doing heli skiing down in Niigata, and he kind of lost the spot to do it. It's actually doing it at Arai Mountain, Lotte Arai, and they bought the resort again. They were going to start running a resort again, so he was looking for a place, and I said, yeah, I know a lot of places. I mean, what I did for, I mean, of course, still shredded the resorts, but I did a lot of snowmobile access, just looking for new places to take our guests. And I spent most of my time doing that, going all over Hokkaido on snowmobiles, checking for places that would work for cat skiing. But I got introduced to a guy who's like, hey, listen, I got a helicopter. Do you know any place to go? Help to start a heli operation. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know a few places, but I want to be part of it. And it was quite risky to do that. You know, the weather, everyone thought I was crazy. But when you get an opportunity to try to do the first ever real heli operation in Japan, you're going to take that chance. Well, I am anyway.
Yeah, you're going to jump at it. Yeah, good on you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure it was going to work either. I actually was pretty sure it wasn't going to work. But I'm still going to take that opportunity, take that chance. You only live once. And we got somehow, we're doing it on Shiribetsudake, right? So that's right by Rusutsu, it's the big mountain where they should have built the lifts, but they didn't. But again, I'm going to go back on that.
For those who don't know, it kind of looks like a smaller Yote, right? Kind of. Yeah.
And great steep runs and very easily hiked, but much quicker on a helicopter. So we were able to get a heli ski permission on that mountain, mainly because that mountain by itself is owned by 4 different towns. And those towns we didn't have to go to the Ministry of Forest. Ministry of Forest is the biggest, I don't want to say cockblock, but it's the biggest cockblock in the whole game of expanding the backcountry here. They don't want to take any risk. And if they say yes, then they assume risk. So they don't want.
4 towns is a really good point, because Hakuba, for example, and just Happo, those lifts are owned by like 15 or 20 different families, and they couldn't agree to make a new gondola because there's so many people involved. So if there's 4 towns who are like whatever, and there's 4 entities, it's just 4, then you're probably going to get a lot further than you can, as you know, and I know, in Japan than you can with a bunch of other things. I think that's kind of important to point out.
For sure. You know, that's in Europe too. I think finances, I mean, Niseko United used to be like 15 different resorts as well. There were all of those lifts in Hirafu, all of the lifts in Higashi. There were multiple hotels owned one lift, but they all got together. They had to because of the economy dying, and they made the Niseko United Pass, not because they were all really good buddies, the resort owners, but because this was a way to bring it all together. I mean, back in the day, you literally had to have little tickets to get clipped for each run you did at different resorts, because they'd have to have points cards for every place.
Work out who was going to get the money from the lift being rode, right?
Yeah, which they figured out now with the computer, because they can just break off who's riding what the most. I thought, you know what? And this is something you should watch when you get a chance. We actually translated into Japanese as well. 50 Years of Whistler Blackcomb. It's a documentary, 40 years, one of the two, 40 or 50 years of Whistler Blackcomb. Absolutely amazing. And I thought it was going to go that way, where Whistler Blackcomb were competing with each other, trying to get better and better and better at a resort. And it didn't happen here in Niseko. It's kind of like, hey, let's make sure that no one does anything too outstanding here. Let's keep the bar low, and all the resorts kind of kept the bar low. So it's interesting that it hasn't gotten much better than it has there have been improvements here, and that's great. I think it's too little for the amount of guests that we're pulling in into Niseko right now.
And I'd agree with that on the fact that it was pretty disgraceful how early it closed last year on the back of one of the best snow seasons in a long
Easy.
time. It was the first Japanese season that I missed in fucking 17 years or something, and it was the best in like 60 years, and it was the earliest that Niseko closed. That's pretty disgraceful.
It is. The numbers have never been higher, and to close that early was terrible. It was a terrible thing. It's not a
Even if you're like saying that like we're closing Harafu to do whatever, I think that they could have at least been like, okay, this resort's closed, but we'll give you access to Annapuri or Hanazono or whatever from this lift because there's thousands of people staying in Harafu. But that's just like we're not compute kind of shit, right?
Annapurna did stay open till the end as usual, which was great. That was nice. We rode the last day that Annapurna was open, and it was I think all the way to the end of Golden Week again. But yeah, and listen, this spring, I want it to be better here, but the spring scene is nothing like North America, nothing like Australia, nothing like Europe. It's pretty quiet. There's no live bands. It does get warm here quickly, so you don't have the melt freeze overnight. You don't get the corn, so it can be really mushy and slow skiing, and not a lot of effort put into building parks. And not a lot of side hits. Not a lot of side hits on the resorts as well. So it's a bit underwhelming, uh,
Yeah.
at least here.
But in saying that, a lot of the people who Niseko is now popular with, which is that new growing Asian kind of market with the Chinese being the biggest thing in skiing, actually probably suits them, that kind of snow and shitty, junky, friggin' slow stuff. Because it makes it really easy for them to learn. But there's almost more of a responsibility there to build spring. And it's the same thing in Huckabee, obviously. It's like so many people who are now really interested in skiing and snowboarding aren't like super passionate and wanting to go freaking heli skiing. They just want to take a photo and look cool
Yeah.
and say
Oh
that
yeah,
they
the
went to
Instagram
Niseko.
shot.
So that's probably the best time of the year to facilitate it and let them have some gold flakes on their ice cream and be open. And yeah, I feel like the resorts, Huckabee and Niseko especially, and Miyoko and Arai not far behind it, they're really missing a trick there to extend their income. Yeah, that's the future of our industry at the moment. So embrace it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the reality is that it's very hard to get better as a ski resort if your season is that short. You need a spring. You need a summer. And Hakuba does have a good summer. I was just there last week, and there's a scene going on in summer there. Um,
Yeah, you would have seen how busy Iwataki is. Like that car park is full every week with
it's awesome.
with people bike riding, and they're not passionate mountain bikers. They're just people having a crack, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
It is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Iwataki is their whole focus is summer. Winter, they're probably the worst resort of them all,
Yes.
but not
Yeah.
just terrain wise. You know what I'm saying? And they're the first people to admit that, and they're so amazing. I've talked to the manager a couple of times. I'm like, wow, I can't believe that you thought so far outside the box and you built this crazy summer business.
Are you talking about what's his
Good on
name?
you guys.
One something? The guy who part owns it and runs it, and he started a lake house as well over by the lake. He's very forward, that guy. Japanese guy, first name starts with W. I can't remember right now.
I don't remember.
But yeah, he's very progressive and has done a really good job of making, as you said, the worst sort in Huckabee the most progressive. And
Yeah.
what a legend.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's great what they've done. How, Niseko, well, we do have mountain bike trails now, actually, with the Namba. Absolutely amazing what they've accomplished.
Twin Peaks. Yep.
Especially given the parameters that the Ministry of Forest are putting out to them, where the runs can only be 1 meter wide and all kinds of really difficult challenges, but they're still making trails. And you would not believe how many mountain bikers are coming out here. There was no place to do it. That was always the argument. I'm like, why don't you build mountain bike trails? And they're like, well, because no one mountain bikes. I'm like, well, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, you need to build mountain bike trails and people will come. And it's a perfect example. They are coming and they're loving it.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's like, as we know, like people like Wazza went off his back to sit there and build them and spent so much time building them. And then out of spite, they just kind of got destroyed before the next winter and it was start again. It's just kind of retarded. Yeah, retarded behavior, bite off your nose to spite your face kind of shit.
Okay.
On all of that, let's get more into the real estate, which is something that I really wanted to talk to you about. As I said to you before we pressed the record button, I noticed that you, being the honest kind of guy that you are, called out some really shitty things that were going on in Niseko with real estate agents and people just basically taking the piss. And a whole lot of other people's opinion is that's just progress. That's just the way it works. And definitely understand that you don't think that way. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on? And to preface that, from my small understanding, is real estate agents buying houses cheap and then through secondary companies and whatnot, putting up the price
Exactly.
300-400 grand and taking the piss and then selling it to people and just profiting massively off people who probably deserve that money more than them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the real estate market in Japan is not unlike cryptocurrency. It's so much smoke and mirrors going on here. In fact, real estate is it's a kind of a taboo, not a taboo topic, but it's a perfect opportunity for, let's just say, the darker side of Japan. They've always been involved in it. A lot of Japanese people are embarrassed or it's taboo to talk about how much you're selling stuff or buying stuff for. That's the Japanese tradition, which is a terrible tradition because you don't know what the market value is of properties. What makes me sick is what's happened in Niseko. And it's probably happened other places around the world too. But at least in Canada, there are laws in place where a real estate agent is not allowed to purchase land and flip it for a much higher price. So what's happening is there are real estate agents, and they're all guilty of it. Every single real estate agent is probably guilty of it at some point. And their argument is, well, I'm not breaking the law. This is how it is. This is what you're
Well, and
allowed to
I
do
think
here.
it's also really important for people who don't understand Japan to realize that if you make an offer on a property and you engage in wanting to buy something, no one else is allowed to make an offer or anything like that until you've decided that you say no. So if you're a real estate agent and you've said that I want to buy something, then no one else has a foot in if you say it first, right?
I don't know if that's the law, but there's a lot of respect amongst
That's
Japanese people.
the way it's done, though, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the way it's done.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and I've seen it. Listen, I know for a fact that real estate agents have purchased properties, spoken to the original Japanese owner, negotiated a price, gone out, found a buyer, and on the exact same day have changed the registration twice in one day. So they buy it from the Japanese owner and immediately flip it to the foreign buyer on the same day. It is a filthy legal way to flip property. It's terrible for the people who hired a real estate agent to sell their property for them and ended up getting 1/3 or 1/5 of what the property sold for, even on the same day or in the same week or in the same month.
I'll send you a video after this. Some Australian boys made this really funny video about if real estate agents were honest.
I think I've seen that.
You've seen that? I love bags. Yeah, it's very like that just speaks to me of just complete dishonesty and selfishness and not doing the right thing.
Positions, it's a sales position. So as a professional real estate agent, I don't think they have a professional used car salesman license. Maybe there is, I don't know. But as a professional real estate agent, you're supposed to be acting on the best, whatever, taking care of your client.
Yeah, best interest of your client. That's how you make a commission, right?
Yeah.
But instead you're literally fucking them. Yeah.
It's insane. Anything, I mean, this is back home too. Usually anything that you see online is already the properties that are going to be overpriced because the inside deals happen. I don't want to, that being said, there are some good real estate agents out there, but some of the worst ones are actually Japanese real estate agents because they do the whole, hey, I'm Japanese. I'm going to take care of you guys. Come on. We're Japanese. Come on. And they're the ones who end up flipping the properties for triple the price. It happened to me recently, and I'm not mad. That's the price I was willing to pay for the property. But I found out that this company, because I looked at the Tokibo, which is the registration, it was purchased by a company. And it's the background story is pretty crazy. If it's true that there was a story going with it with the real estate agent, I really want to buy this property for myself. But in the end, they ended up flipping it. So what they do is they register a company, and the company was literally right next door to the real estate company. So that company bought it. They were able to, and why they do that is because then they're able to sell it and make commissions on that too as well. Long story short, they sold it for triple the price that they bought it from the original Japanese owner in the same month. And this company is famous for doing that. When I put that post up as a warning, so many people brought up, I've had the exact same experience happening here. It's not just that company. They have all done it in the past. And what they're doing is legal. It's just, it shouldn't be.
Morally fucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, you've seen it, like as a Canadian who was in Niseko early and there's an Aussie who was there pretty early. Like the Japanese fucking were off the drunk Aussies and so angry at us for being drunk and disrespectful, which we were. And then I went and spent a lot of time in Hokkaido and came back to Niseko and saw the change in the clientele and saw them like, I'm talking about like the staff in Lawson's and stuff being like, you Aussies aren't so bad anymore because you're not as rude as the new majority clientele, which was Chinese, Hong Kongese, Singaporean, who were at that point, booking dinners and then not turning up and booking not spending money in the bars and all sorts of stuff. And then, like, I guess what I was trying to get at is you can't really blame them in a way for wanting to take a little bit back, but it still doesn't make it right. Like Niseko has just exploded so quick and so like not like achievable as in like long term good for everyone, that it's a lot of people trying to snatch and grab now, I think is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's a long-winded way to say that, but I think you know what I mean, right? Like
there's a lot
from Aussies being the devil to the new devil to I'll snatch and grab what I can because if I don't, someone else will. So
totally. I remember one day as the Aussies were building up here in Niseko, and we went out on New Year's Eve in Hirafu, to watch the fireworks, and I saw 3 fights on the streets, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm sick of these Aussies." And never, but that was that one year, right? There were some highs and lows. Never would I have ever been thought that I'd be longing for the days when it was all full of Aussies here and not the new rude Asian customer who really doesn't, not, they're not all like that. They're not all like that, but there's so many, I guess, new money Asians who think that money can. This is Niseko. This is Niseko in a nutshell. This is changing topics a little bit, but Niseko was this very famous place for powder snow amongst the Japanese. The Aussies, give credit where credit is due, recognized that a long time ago and started to purchase land and build apartments. No one ever thought it was going to get to this level, but it did. And a lot of people made a lot of money doing that, flipping properties to Aussies coming here. And it's a great, I mean, it's opposite seasons. It's really close. It's amazing. I totally get why that happened. And where we're going with that, the Aussies are coming here. Well, yes. So that was, but they were
Yeah, I
all
guess a
powder
lot of
junks.
Aussies have now been priced out of Niseko and they're
Yeah.
going to
But
like
they were coming here
Ryoko
because of the
to,
snow, right? They were
yeah,
coming because of the powder. And it
they
was
wanted to
still
shred.
this, yeah, this famous place where you go on a shred pow. And then there was this turning point when the Aussies like, it's getting a little bit crowded, it's getting a little bit expensive. And they started going other places. And then this brand developed in Niseko. And now it's a brand where Montclair is here and Louis Vuitton's not here yet, but I'm sure they will be soon. And all the big hotels came in, and now this place is, oh, you don't have a holiday home in Niseko? Oh, well, the Wongs do, and so do the whatever. The other, that was a terrible last name to say,
Yeah,
but
I know what you mean
you know
though.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
This is the place.
it's all about now. It's about
Status.
telling people that you visited Niseko, not
It's
about
sad.
skiing the best powder snow in the world.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know. I don't even know that they say that best powder snow in the world thing. They just want to be in Niseko and part of the brand and have their Instagram photos or whatever. And actually, that's not a bad thing because I think the backcountry is not getting busier anymore. I think
Yeah.
it's leveled out.
And the funny thing as well, Clayton, is like most of my mates who work for Rhythm and whatnot, like they haven't bought a season pass in like fucking
No.
5+ years.
Yeah. Well, no.
Apart
I
from
haven't
like,
bought one.
apart from Grover who gets up early and gets on first lift at the Gash because that's what I
Yeah.
do as well. Like they all just go hiking and exploring Hokkaido because, from someone who's lived in both places, everyone's like, Huckabee's amazing. It's right there. And there's snow that you can explore just side country, kind of not have to work real hard. But if you really want to find it in Hokkaido, there's so many like microclimates. It's like when you drive through that tunnel on the way to Kororo and then you get to the other side of the tunnel and it's just fucking dumping and it wasn't snowing on the other side. And you're like, oh shit, Kororo's on today. And it's just it's a very special place. It's just so weird that such a special snowy place like as you said, like Montclair, let's take a photo. Like
And that's
it,
what people say. This is progress. You can't stop progress. And I get that. I mean, there's a lot of places that have gone that way. I think Jackson Hole is one of them. I heard a friend is going to be looking for a share house there. It's 1,600 US dollars a month for a room in like a 6-bedroom place. So it's not just unique to Niseko. It's a bummer. That's all. But
yeah.
I just wish they would
And
have.
I think that that's the other thing is because this like Japan is relatively cheap. Like I'll put my hand up, and I was lucky to buy a house real cheap in Hakuba a few years ago because I knew the right people, and what I could sell that house for is 5 times what I paid for it because of progress.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So, we ended up selling the Black Diamond Lodge just before COVID, actually. I was so invested in everything. I didn't have much savings. I got 3 kids, my wife, and it's all this business. And this business involves a lot of risk, not just weather, but also avalanche risk and guests and, what happens if there's another natural disaster or whatnot. And lo and behold, COVID happened. So I needed to get something sold here and have a backup plan in Canada just in case shit hit the fan. Do I regret selling the Black Diamond Lodge? Actually, we still rent it. We still rent it, and we still run it from the owners that we bought it from. Great people. That's also good. You want to sell it to the right people if you still want to be involved. And do I regret it? No, not at all. It was something I needed to do at that time. And yeah, we made a lot. We made good money. We probably made 8 or 9 times what we bought it for, but we also owned it for 20 years. So I don't consider that flipping
Yeah, you
in
built
any
that.
stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, any stretch. We deserve that. We deserve that. And flipping to me is buying something. I personally think there should be a 2-year minimum hold rule, and that would stop people from flipping properties. When you flip properties in small ski towns, there aren't that many properties available. And as soon as someone buys it for a lot more money, they're going to jack the rent up. And now what's happening is property owners jack the rent up and people can't afford it. So then all of the wages have to go up and then the prices go up for everything here and the restaurant. And it just creates hyperinflation. And I just wish that didn't happen in ski towns. I wish there was more foresight about that stuff. In cities, I get it, but not in ski towns. That's being
Yeah, and that's
selfish.
it, mate. I guess, I remember, time has changed, but I used to get paid $8 an hour in Canada and in Niseko, and that's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
That's like, obviously years have gone past and showing our age, but like, yeah, no one could pay their staff anywhere near that anymore because of the price of everything.
yeah.
So yeah, beer's more expensive, which sucks. And ramen's not, yeah, ramen's more expensive, which sucks. And yeah, that was one of the best things about Japan, that there was like no tax on booze and cigarettes, and things were actually cheap, and you could go and eat out pretty much every night and not be able to cook at home for the same price,
Insane.
because that's how the economy was set up, right? So
What's
that's definitely
interesting.
not a case anymore.
No, it's not. And interesting right now, there is this big push from not all Japanese, of course, but there's this pushback from many Japanese saying, prices have gone up because all these tourists keep coming here. I can't book a hotel with my family anymore and afford it. I can't go to a restaurant with my family anymore because I can't afford it because all these tourists are coming here. So is it too much of a good thing? I don't know. It's a real basically tourism has turned Japan into a turbocharge for a lot of these things of travel in Japan. 20, not even 20, 10 years ago, I would go, it'd be very rare that you would go to somewhere outside of a Saikawa. You would never see a foreigner there. But now you could go to the furthest, most remote place ever and you're running into
Hey, yeah,
foreigners.
mate. Yeah, you'll get that somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
remote.
exactly.
Yeah, but do you? I've also heard that Japan's about to bring 500,000
300.
Indians into the country to help with IT because the population's shrinking. I've heard that they are going to tax foreigners differently. I'm pretty sure that's going ahead. Like, considering you have a Japanese wife, like, from your mouth, what have you heard?
I don't know what's going to happen. And the reality is that Japan um, needs foreigners here to work. But they, at the same time, there's a lot of people complaining about foreigners coming here to work. So I don't know what the answer is to that. Things are
And I,
going to
I I
change.
don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm gonna fucking say it. Japanese people are very insular and, very proud to be Japanese and very scared of
Xenophobe.
foreigners.
Yeah.
Hence why we're called gaijins or
Yeah.
aliens. So, yeah, of course, bringing over foreigners to help their economy when you're so insular is going to be a threat. So, yeah, like it's going to be really hard for Japan to navigate. I think the next generation will be a hell of a lot better. A lot of people stuck in their ways and very stubborn in Japan. And that's also why they're so amazing and great, but it's also why they're so Japanese.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a very tough one. You know, Japan has been very xenophobic or whatever, trying trying to keep foreigners at bay, if you will. And it turns out that this is one of the safest, most polite countries in the world. So I don't want to make that correlation, but it's easy to make that correlation.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never felt safer going for a night out and worried that someone would try and fucking punch me or whatever it
Yeah,
may be.
yeah.
Like you
It's
feel
an
safe
amazing.
everywhere in Japan. And that I think that's a really good point that you just made. And that's because they are so insular.
Yeah, I
And
hate
they
to say it, but yeah, I think maybe that they're onto something. Hey, in Canada, we brought a lot of immigrants in the past 3 or 4 years per year, like an amazing amount of people. And now there's a lot of angst in the country. They took our jobs. They didn't take our jobs. They're willing to work harder. But anyway, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
yeah,
What I'm
my dad's
adamant
from
about.
Ireland, mate, and his hometown is the same thing. It's flooded with foreigners and it used to be a lovely small town. And now like they
You know,
can't walk around the streets at night and it's
Well,
flooded.
here's what's interesting about Niseko is that the numbers are going down in summertime. And well, in wintertime, it's 80 or 90% foreigners visiting Niseko. And in summertime, the numbers have gone down. It's predominantly Japanese, but they've gone down because it's perceived anytime you tell anybody that you're from Niseko, to a Japanese person, like, and I'm like, what is that? What is that reaction? Oh, expensive. You're rich. And that's not a good thing. There's a lot of Japanese people that are not coming here. This today, actually, there was a Niseko marathon that happened. Last year, there was 1,600 participants. This year, there was 1,300. I'm not sure what the reason is for that, but there is across Japan, even if you don't ski or snowboard, people associate Niseko with expensive and 3,000 yen ramens. It's not a good thing in Japan right now. In fact, I read that among some Japanese guides. They're like, well, Niseko's, we've lost, the translation was, we've lost it to the foreigners. That's not a good thing. That's a bad
No,
thing
but
right now.
it's so true though. Like I remember I was in Annapuri a few years ago and there was like an ice cream for 3,000 yen that had like gold flakes on it. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
fucking ice cream with like fake gold shit on it. And they're selling it to rip people off. It's fucked up.
Exactly. That's Niseko in a nutshell. I feel like I'm trying to listen, with our cat skiing and our heli skiing and our backcountry tours, I always look at how much money those similar tours are in North America or in different countries. And I want to be right in the middle. I don't want to be the most expensive I possibly can, but that's Niseko right now. In my opinion, and how I feel is that people are seeing how much money they can charge people. And that's actually the world, how much money you can get away with charging people for a ski jacket or a pair of skis or this, that, and the other thing. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be in the middle. But at the same time, when I see other cat operations charging double what we're charging, and there's no way it's twice as good, it's not. I know for a fact it's not. I kind of feel like, well, maybe we should be selling out too. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
Yeah,
And we're
and
not
I
there yet.
guess I guess to back you up on that, like I remember when this bubble started and I was down in Huckabee at this stage, there was people coming to Niseko who'd never skied or snowboarded before and they were buying the most expensive skis, boots, jackets, everything, and they decided they didn't like skiing, so they just leave them in the hotel room. And I think that kind of explains the new money that,
New money.
and the fuck, you wanted to be a cleaner back then because you just like literally cleaned a hotel room and grabbed an extra 10 grand that was left there because someone decided they didn't like skiing. Wild.
It is wild.
Absolutely.
It is wild.
Yeah. So, mate, I
Unfortunately,
guess we could fucking talk shit about this
yeah,
for
we shouldn't
weeks.
probably. Yeah, probably not.
But on you and your like guiding and everything you've done, is there anything that like stands out? Is there anyone that you've like looked after that's a real highlight of your life? Or is there anything that you're like obviously bringing the helicopter to
Yeah,
Hokkaido is fucking awesome, and it was so great to see that. But is there anything else that's really stood out to you, or anyone that you've guided or looked after that is a real career highlight so far?
when we started Black Diamond Tours, I thought about exactly the same thing. How do we start to build this? And let's invite some media. And actually, it was an Aussie friend, Stewie, who introduced us to Ben Chetler and JP O'Clair and David Levin. And they made a movie called Reasons. And there was this Japan segment. This is
Yep,
just after Costa.
banger movie. Yep,
Yeah. Just after Costa did
absolute
Instinct.
banger.
Yeah. Costa and also who was it? Tanner Hall. Tanner Hall had a couple of bangers before that.
Yeah, with Tommy Costa and Believe and Idea. Idea was a banger as
Right.
well
Yeah.
on the
I
Hellbents.
I
Yeah,
never
that was
knew
that was mind blowing.
I've never met Tanner, but Stewie from Australia, he introduced us to Ben Shetler and JP O'Clair, and they stayed at the lodge for a month, and they made this awesome segment, and that is what launched our whole business. That segment, everyone who came to stay at the Black Diamond Lodge watched that movie. That's how powerful it was back in the day. This is 2006, I guess, or 2008. And then after that, every other film crew contacted us. They're like, hey, we want a piece of that action too. What I always, I mean, I'm a frother. I love the industry and I love showing people new stuff. So I'm not going to take you to where those guys went. I'm going to take you to something new. And so we got a chance to work with a lot of very famous professional skiers and not as many snowboarders, but a lot of professional skiers. All kinds of amazing people, made a lot of good relationships, and they still come out and visit us to this day. And that has been a really cool thing that I never thought about that was going to happen. And I mean, I support these guys because not every one of them is making a ton of money, but they're building the industry. They're showing they're getting people excited about skiing and snowboarding. So it's really nice to be able to work with those guys.
I feel like Niseko is such a happy place for so many of those pros, right? Like it's just a happy place for them. They fucking love it.
They love it because they can keep every one of these professional athletes has a travel budget and they don't have to spend much here because just off the side of the road are some crazy features that are going to get reset every single night. And they're like, okay, it snowed 30. Let's go back to that spot where we built the booter. And I didn't land it yesterday, so let's go do it tomorrow because they've got 20 more centimeters. So really easy go-to place. And there's so many cool spots off the sides of the roads here. That's a really cool thing. The fact that we built this heli ski operation it's probably the world's smallest heli operation, but when it's on, it is one of the best in the world. And it's not me saying that, it's our guests who have been everywhere, who are actually like, this is so rad. It's efficient. It's the most sustainable, if you can say that, heli operation because we use very little fuel. We're right at the bottom of the mountain. We see a little bit of window. We're in the helicopter and we're at the top of that mountain in 2 minutes. And we shred back down. And more like, I would say 80% of the time, we're getting at least 1 or 2 runs in the day. And a lot of the time, I'm very surprised we get a 6-7 run day. It's absolutely amazing. And that's cool. But I think the best thing, the most rewarding thing that we've done up until this point is our CAD operation out in Shimamaki, where we went out there and met the locals and got their
Approval. Yep.
cooperation, who went to the Ministry of Forest on our behalf to get this place going. And I told them that it's hard for them to imagine, but I'm like, listen, I'm going to bring people from all over the world and we're going to shred this terrain. It's going to be so cool.
So
The
good.
crazy thing is in Shimamaki, 30 years ago, they did heli and cat ski. It's not the first time it's been done. It just happened 30 years too early. This guy, Bankei, it's a ski resort in Sapporo. This guy who was an Olympic athlete, he actually started heli skiing and cat skiing in Shakotan Peninsula and Shimamaki, and they were doing it in the springtime, but he did it just as the bubble was bursting, and it wasn't successful. It was just too early. And 30 years later, here we are doing it again. But the place, the whole thing, Shimamaki, it's only an hour and 15 minutes away from Niseko. It's on the coast. I mean, we call it Jalaska or Chapaska, whatever you want to call it, because it's big mountains coming right down to the ocean. There's freaking grizzly bears and salmon running. It's just the most amazing place. And you go over that pass and you're going down the hill and you lose all of this, like, I got to make money. I got to run this business. I got to flip land from Niseko. And you just come into this fishing town and everything makes sense again. And you're so relaxed. It's such a rad experience. That's what I'm most proud of.
That's awesome, mate. I just thought as you were saying all of that, that we should probably shout out to another couple of cool humans. One who passed away, Sam Kerr.
That was him. Yeah.
What a legend. He's a really good mate of mine. I lived with him and Tom at Bamboo Lodge, and I had Tom here a couple of months ago, Tom Melville.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think, did Sam work for you at some point as well?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Sam
a weapon of a...
Yeah. He would. My God. Back in the day, Andrew was the manager of all of the backcountry tours at the time. And Sam, listen, he liked to get on the piss in the evenings, but he would
I lived with him and Tom at Bamboo Lodge, so I know.
He would be on time to work every single morning, just in time. And you couldn't fault him for that. He was, man, Sam loved to shred. He really did. He loved it.
I think that Tom and Sam, I was saying this to Tom when he was here, you can always tell someone who's a really solid snowboarder by how well they traverse. And I'm a skier. And those guys would either be like in front of me or right behind me and never fall behind on traverses. And I have 4 edges. They have 2. So they have 1 on a traverse. And I think that, like, that comment in itself, like, speaks volumes about, like, if you're a snowboarder and you traverse really well, then you're probably really fucking solid. And those 2 boys are probably 2 of my favorite blokes to shred with, for sure.
One thing that sticks out was we went to Japan's most famous pillow line. It's a triple stack just off Nakayama Toge. And me and Ren went out there and we were talking about, okay, well, who's going first? And there was no hesitation at all. He just sent it. Like, I'm like, there was no hesitation. I think he even stopped it, actually. It was amazing to see.
You probably smashed a chew high before that as well.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a great time. That was a tough one for sure. I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news.
Yeah, I was in Hokkaido. I came up for the funeral and I went to Amaru the night before to see Brett, and he made me a Long Island iced tea in a fucking vase.
Yeah.
Like in a literal vase. There was been like 3 bottles of booze in it. Yeah, that was a tough one, but it was really good. I saw Tom in April, and it was really good to see him.
He's coming here next month.
Awesome.
Yeah. It'll be good.
Cool, mate. I think we should probably wrap it up because we could fucking
Yes.
talk all night. Really appreciate you jumping on the chat with me. It was awesome to hear your story more so from the horse's mouth. We've obviously known each other, but never really chatted like this. So
Sure.
stoked, mate.
Never.
Press stop on the record button and grab myself another drink, and then we'll go from there.
Hey,
Thanks,
great
mate.
to talk to you.
Cause I play slow, them up flows like nobody knows. Them kill soul, a sound clash and dance all and mash up stage shows. But some guys don't recognize, I realize. So them up them own style. A long time them they are now, them not just come. And it's been a long while. Them want a piece of the pie. Well if I duplicate and tune up a buy. Food to feed them family, that's no lie. Any idiot little sound try to test them I go die. Them not give up. Look how long them a wait. A full time now, they get a slice of the cake. No sound fix because them bust through the gate. Through them play a good tune, and this a sound the people rate. Them we mash you up. All over the UK, America and JA. People want Kia Bamba in a dance. Them no business at all, could have friend or four before them play them.